I have all the evidence and my STBXW still has the audacity to deny everything. Part 4. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. I think she sent me this because she was preparing a how dare you before it all sank in. I told her that yes, I talked to V and that's why I asked her to keep V out of this. My wife said she'd keep her out of it and wouldn't ask her anything else. I knew meeting my wife in person was going to be hard. But I had to tell her how she made me feel, in person. And I wanted to give her one last chance to say something. Anything. I wrote a text because I knew I couldn't go by memory, and if I went by heart, I would be too hard on her. So I zoomed out, told her what I went through, the damage it caused, the pain that lingers, the scars it will leave. She left. Her friend stayed. Her friend asked me if she had lied like this before. I thought she was going for the this is out of character approach, but no. She tells me she knows how good of a liar she is. She gave me a possible explanation of where it stems from. She believes in self-development and so do I. I told her about my ex, I told her about why I can't possibly ever go back to it. She told me my wife lied and told her two different versions about what happened and it made me cry. I'm glad she's here for her. Later that night my wife sent me another series of texts which implied her self-deleting, asking me to send stuff to her parents, to send her my bank account info so she can send me everything. Then later she told me she'd talk to my lawyers today. I told her I couldn't deal with all she wrote to me and I would read it today. Today she told me that it was okay, that I should focus on work. Then asked me how work is going, if I want to share. She sent me an email recounting our history and every place she failed me by not being enough. I had to fight hard to hold back tears at the coffee shop. She invited me to a shared iCloud album titled Love. Haven't accepted. I now understand why NC is important. I'll have to endure this, I won't be swayed. I read the texts between her and Kay often because I have a tendency to forget and let go, and I need to remind myself that this happened, that it was real. I know what she's going through now is legit, but so is what I went and am going through. Y'all will say this isn't healthy, but it's how I know how to deal with it right now. Update 7. Some of you might recall one of the convos from between my wife and Kay, the convo about the book and gum. I said there were two sentences I could not stop thinking about because they don't make grammatical sense given the context. Now here's the thing. She told me he went there the night before this convo. But that she had his book in her backpack, because it didn't fit on his, and he went there to get the book, and he was only there for 5 minutes. She also said she doesn't remember when she told me she was going to sleep, but in a separate convo, she says she only told me she had arrived at the hotel 15 minutes after she actually did. Now I know that I wrote to her asking if she was still out 15 minutes after she arrived at the hotel. But she only called me 5 minutes later. I thought that the book is here already and glad you've got it already exchange was weird. Because if he did go there the previous night to get his book back, the already doesn't make sense. So here's what I'm very much convinced happened. He lost the book. There was no book legitimately. That's the excuse he used the night before this convo. That's why the following night she asks where's your book? The is it there and maybe are obviously teasing, but this is more in line with him getting out of her room after she says my husband wrote me, I need to call him and then someone catching him, because they went up to the room as soon as they got to the hotel so they wouldn't be seen, and the other co-workers took longer, and that's the excuse he used. He was looking for his book. Not I went to get a book because he's coming out empty-handed. So then the following day of the convo above, he says the book is here already as in, he found it already. Her reply now makes sense too, from that perspective. Glad you've got it already, as in, glad you found it already. Everything in this message is way more literal than we initially thought, and as such, gum is not an excuse, it's actual gum he left there the night before. Hence, still here. This explains two things, the red marks in her neck, all the way down to in between her breasts, and the fact that there were no messages from the previous night whatsoever. Also, in the meantime, she admitted that the night of this convo, he stayed longer than 30 minutes, and they fell asleep on the bed. She started using every single word I mentioned to her, as I mentioned them. This was intentional. First it was betrayal. Then gaslighting. Then manipulating. Then trickle truth. Then cheating. After denying those things, I waited until she came up with them on her own, but nope. She still claims no sex/kissing. I don't think she realized it was cheating, but more like, using the same words I use so that it resembles remorse and admission of guilt. I've always thought that her explosive reaction to all of this was in part because she was caught and in part because I told her we're separating in the way that I did. Yeah, it felt cathartic telling her in person. I cried to her friend after she left, and asked her if I hadn't been too harsh. Fuck. Now regarding the sex/kissing. She kept sending me emails, retelling bits from our past, using inside jokes, telling me how work is, etc. I didn't reply. She did the same this morning, but I'm noticing they're getting shorter and less elaborate? Anyway, I told her if she ever wants to tell me the full truth, my emails are open. Until then, it's logistics only. She admitted to something new. That the third night Kay went to her room, he stayed for longer than 30 minutes and they fell asleep at one point. She woke him up and asked him to leave. And now she has no truth left, like she hadn't said that before. I caved and sent her a one-liner, fuck you. I'm not even sure if I regret it. In the meantime, I pieced together the second night, with all the info she gave me, everything I know, and the gaps I filled. Last update, I thought that would be the end of it, and I would finally go NC. The following day she went to talk to my lawyer. I think she sent me a couple more emotional emails that day, talking about how she feels and what she's losing. That night I decided to go out with my friends. I had a bit too much to drink, went to a club and stayed there maybe 10 minutes before I had a small panic attack and had to go back home. Then I woke up to a dream where we were together, crying. I was asking her about the truth and she wouldn't tell me. I stayed in bed crying for a good 15 minutes. I don't think I've ever been swept by such sadness, disappointment, and other feelings I don't have words for yet. So I sent her an email. I told her about the dream. About how much I missed her throughout my day. I told her I thought she loved me, but she still wasn't telling me the whole truth. She lied, she manipulated me, she gaslit me, and my mind is shattered because it can't hold these two realities. I told her that I hoped she'd find the attention, fun, and everything else she needed with her AP, or with someone else. That I hoped she'd build a home with them, and have the beautiful children she's wanted for so long. I hoped she'd be so successful in her career she could retire early and travel the world. I wished her all the best in the world, because unlike what she thinks, I don't hate her, I love her from the bottom of my heart. And that's why we couldn't be together, because I'd make myself vulnerable again, get hurt again, get lied to again, and I simply can't handle that kind of pain ever again. She replied back asking to meet in person so she could tell me the truth. I agreed. She had gone to a different city where her best friend is living, so she had to take a train, then book a hotel and go back the next day. She asked to meet at the hotel room. I knew it was a bad idea, but I knew talking in public wouldn't allow us both to say what we wanted to say, and I also knew I could protect myself, so I agreed. I knew I was not going to take her back, because I couldn't think of anything she could tell me at this point that could change my mind and how I felt about the whole thing. Keep in mind that she's shown very little concern or compassion for me this whole time. I knew that she was unlikely to tell me the whole truth, and even though I had a few new questions about certain details, I wasn't expecting her to reply with something that made sense. But I still hoped, deep down, that a miracle happened and she'd give me something. Something that would allow me to close this and move forward. There are more to come. Find out the update of this story, check our channel or the description. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.